5 minutes question period will start. I would like to take the time to remind the panel of judges that the question period is 5 minutes long and that it is mandatory to ask at least one question. I'll now let the judges introduce themselves and you may begin when ready.
Okay, my name is Maxime Clément. I work for the orders, CPA order, and that's it.
Hello, I'm Laurent Robert, CPA CA, and I'm working as an advisor at the CPA order.
I am Laurence, I'm a CPA CA as well, and I work at the Office of the Auditor General of Canada.
Earth. Mother Earth, in fact. And there's a reason we call her that. It's because she brought us into this universe. She brought us into this world, and we owe her a lot for that. We have a responsibility towards our Earth, keeping care of it, and looking out for its best interests going forward. Today, myself, Noah, and my peers Janine and Caroline will present to you our findings and report on the current financial statements of EMI, Electromax Motors, a mission-driven electric vehicle company, and give a recommendation going forward on what its future plans might look like in light of the financial changes that we see. To start off, just to give you a quick overview of where we're going to be going today, we're going to go through what the current situation is, what we've been presented by the owner of the business, Martin. We're going to go through what the current situation is, see a bit of what their financial ratios are at the moment, and then we'll go right into the accounting issues. So Janine and Caroline will walk you through each of the different issues that we see. We've seen there's quite a bit of variation and quite a large amount of accounting questions that they had presented. And for that reason, we've been hired as the CPA now to join the company and look into these issues, which will carry a wide range of consequences, from research and development to litigation concerns and then bonus and performance payout. So there's a really wide range of issues that we're going to get into. And then after that, we're going to take a step back and see what the bigger picture is. What do these financial statement changes and adjustments have as an impact on our plans going forward, as Electromax Motors has quite ambitious plans to continue fulfilling their mission going forward. So, just to give you a quick summary of where we stand at the end of our presentation, and by the end of the presentation where you also will see EMI. So first of all, EMI is not in breach of any of its covenants from the debt that it currently holds. Second of all, we feel that EMI has a strong financial position to carry forward with its plans or intention to expand into Mexico for production, to continue growing as a brand and producer of electrical vehicles. And then third of all, we want to recommend that EMI considers going public and switching to IFRS. This will allow it access to greater capital and future automation plans that will increase the production of its existing facilities and just help it continue fulfilling its mission going forward. So what is that mission? The core mission of EMI is to reduce its ecological footprint, selling high-end affordable electrical vehicles. This is a company that was started in 2005, so it's pretty young. They've been growing pretty consistently since then, with fairly stable revenues and $704,000 in 2015. So with this extra growth has come change, namely these new accounting issues that weren't experienced in the past, especially with the expansion to this new autopilot research and development. Basically, it's a very forward-looking company, and with that comes a lot of new concerns that will pop up every day. And for that, we need us to come on as CPAs to join the firm and to join the culture and try to advise on how these things should be treated going forward using our expertise. So without further ado, we'll just give you the quick breakdown of their current ratios. They're not currently in breach of any of the ratios. Just to give you an idea, the current ratio requirement is to stay above 1.7 times current assets to current liabilities. And their debt to equity ratio is currently required to be at 2.06 times debt to equity, so it has to be below that. And so we've joined to advise you, Martin, on how you stand financially at the end of 2016 in relation to these ratios and what the implications are for your plans going forward. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Janine to go through the first issue, research and development.
Thank you, Noah. I'll take it on. So our first issue that we looked at was research and development.
Since its inception, EMI invested a lot in research given the nature of their business. So they want to be eco-friendly, ecological, sustainable. So R&D is really important for this company. At the moment, what they did for their expenses, Peggy, so our the accountant right now, at the moment, and we were brought in to help her out. She capitalized all the expenses at the moment, but failed to, but expense the salaries for the engineers, technicians, and support staff. Our recommendation would be to reverse those accounts. So the first would be, right now what they did was capitalize testing and advertising, and salaries was expensed. Looking through the ASPE criteria in the handbook, we do know that research and development can be capitalized if they're feasible, if they're completed, the project is complete, there's a market for it, so you can sell it or use it. The intention to sell it as well or use it is there, if it is profitable, and if the amounts can be reliably measured. And as you can see, EMI does abide by all those criteria.
Just have to click through them.
Yeah,
You having trouble with the clicker?
yeah. Thanks. Sorry about that. So as we can see, all the criteria are met by EMI, and at the moment, given all those criteria, we recommend that the company capitalizes the salaries regarding to those R&D expenses, and unfortunately, testing the new equipment does not abide by those criteria, since we would have to test these appliances regardless of whether or not they were good. So these would be regarded as sunk cost. Additionally, advertising, unfortunately, by accounting standards, are not expensed. And by doing so, we would have an effect on our net income and as well as a depreciation in our books. So current ratio would be affected by this adjustment to 1.96, and debt to equity ratio would still be below 3 at 2.07. Between the email that you have between Martin and Peggy, you yourself, Martin and Peggy, you did mention 2 important issues. The first one was the litigation issue, and this was an unfortunate event that occurred on the testing area where a pedestrian was killed, unfortunately. It is fair that the person should not have been there, should not have been on the site. However, the lawyers have already said that there's an 80% chance that the family would win the case if it's brought to court, and that we would need to pay a 5 million or 10 million compensation fee to the family. So we would recommend, since the amount is measurable and it is 80% chance, it is very probable that the company will have to undergo this expense, we would recommend to include those in our financial statements and to also provide a no disclosure for this. So the ASPE guidelines do refer to percentage, and right now, given that it is 80%, we fall under the third level, which is probable. So in our books, we would have a contingent liability of 5 million, and this will be disclosed in the notes, which will also affect our current ratio to 1.84, and our debt equity ratio as well to 2.24. The second issue in the email was regarding the government grant. So initially, the government would give grants to individuals that brought eco-friendly products, eco-friendly vehicles themselves. However, now the idea is that the companies would get the grant directly from the government, and so we looked at the revenue recognition criteria that are present in the handbook. Those grants are collectible since they are from the government. They're measurable. It is stated that we'll get $6,000 for each car that we sell based on last year's sales. And we did provide the performance since the client did buy those products and the sale was completed. with those changes, we would have an effect on accounts receivable since the grant is to be received, and our income statement as well would be better by having this grant. So our current ratio would change as well significantly to 3.53, and our debt to equity ratio would still be below 3 at 0.69. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Janine.
Thank you, Caroline. So Martin, as you know, at the beginning of the year, we issued a new sales promotion program where customers, after purchasing their car, would have up to 3 years to come in with the same car, and they're guaranteed up to a 50% refund. Of course, this was on a fee of $1,000. Peggy initially recognized the $1,000 as income right away. That's perfectly fine, no changes needed. However, the 100% recognition of revenue is not completely okay. It is a multiple deliverable. Thank you. So performance has been met. We have given them the car. It's at their complete disposal. Ownership has been passed. Rewards and risks are transferred. Measurable. We know that the cost of the car is $80,000. Complete. Collectible? No, sorry Martin, that criteria has not been met. So, the outcome of this is a decrease of revenue of $40,000, which, so as you can see in the image, 50% of revenue can be recognized this year. However, the other 50% will be recognized in 2018 upon completion of the contract. The effect on the covenant ratios is a decrease in the current ratio to 2.6 and an increase in the debt to equity ratio of 0.7. However, as you can see, we still meet the requirements. E-Green. Although Martin may be a little upset that expenses are higher, the Quebec government now requires a fee of $11 per ton of lead used. Unfortunately, we use lead. We're a car manufacturer, and it's inevitable. This comes out to $96 per ton per battery produced by EMI. So, currently, Peggy has not recorded this liability, and it's a contingent liability we owe the Quebec government this money, and as a result, we must capitalize this cost in inventory. So the costs the cost can be capitalized because it meets the criteria of an asset. So this amount has been owed to the government. It's a result of past transactions, and we need to. This cost is profitable because we need this cost to create the battery that's essential for all of our cars. Lastly, inventory. The market, we're a car manufacturer, Martin, and steel is another important input that we require. So as you know, the price of steel fluctuates by the hour. It's ever changing. Recently, our inventory of steel decreased by $64 per ton. As a result, the market value of our inventory is lower. However, under ASCII, there is no concept of OCI. And really, is it worth it to recognize such a fluctuation? In a day, the price could double by $120 per ton. So our recommendation is that you reverse the entry that Peggy implemented, and the results of which will include a increase in inventories and a decrease in expenses, and which the result will increase the current ratio to 2.65 and decrease the debt to equity to 0.69. However, again, our covenants are still in compliance with our creditors' requests. Lastly, the bonus program. The company's in great shape. Our employees are doing their best, and therefore, this bonus program is a great incentive to increase morale. Currently, Martin, you've suggested that we issue Class B preferred shares that will be given to employees that are non-redeemable at our request. But it's conditional on a 25% increase in net income. Fortunately, we have increased net income from 2015 to 2017 by that amount. As you can see, originally it was $704,000. Net income, with our adjustments that my colleagues have discussed, net income is now $300 million, with a percentage change of 185 times %. So we are well over the requirement of 25%, and you can issue these Class B preferred shares. Congratulations, Martin. I'll now pass it on to Noah.
Alright, so as you can see, we're painting a pretty rosy picture for Martin here. And just want to recapitulate some of our main summary points and go through exactly again our takeaways with a bit more depth now that we saw where we get the numbers from. So first of all, EMI complies with all its debt covenants. As we saw, the end result of all of our changes was a current ratio of 2.65 times. And as for the debt to equity ratio, 0.69. So the 2.65, far above our 1.7 times requirement, and at 0.69, EMI is pretty under-levered. Then, as we look forward, what does this mean for the company as a whole? Well, Martin expressed a lot of interest in expanding operations by building new production plants. One area that he said he might be interested in expanding into was Mexico. We think that this is a great idea. Considering EMI's great financial position and very enviable financial performance in the last year, in 2016, we think it's a great idea to continue expanding our impact, expanding our production capacity. As electric vehicles, it's a burgeoning market. It's quite small still. But as we expand into new factories and roll out more vehicles and perhaps even get access to more grants and incentives as people tend to switch towards more environmentally friendly method of transportation, we can expect that this would be a great decision for the company. Third of all, we'd like to suggest to Martin that you switch to IFRS. Now, there are a couple of changes that will happen when Martin switches from ASPE, the standard for small private enterprises, to IFRS, which is required to go public. But it's required exactly so, to go public. And that's what Martin should be aiming for. With such great performance in the last couple of years and a good financial position right now, plus with its low leverage compared to general requirements by its covenant ratio, we would expect that going public would be a great decision for EMI to expand more aggressively in meeting its core mission going forward. So a couple things I want to caveat that with is that IFRS is going to be more costly to implement. It's going to be more costly to implement and change all of our financial reporting as it stands right now, and more costly to hold going forward. So that is going to be an added cost, but we think the benefits far outweigh that. And then second of all, one particular change that we mentioned throughout the presentation was that under ASPE, EMI was not able to recognize the fluctuation in steel prices. So this is something that would change under IFRS. Under IFRS, EMI would have a comprehensive income segment of its reported income statement, where it would record changes in and fluctuations in commodity prices like such. So we were shielded from that impact this last year, but we will not be shielded from that going forward if we switch to IFRS. But we still strongly recommend that this is the best decision going forward. And we'll give access to capital, not only to expand, but to take on more debt in the capital markets. It'd be easier to do as a public company, and implement the plan of increased automation production facilities. So EMI is already doing pretty well production-wise, but with the increased automation techniques from German engineering auto experts coming in and helping us change how we currently produce our vehicles, we can expect our margins to increase and improve going forward, and further helping us fulfill our mission. What was that mission again? To reduce our ecological footprint, selling high-end vehicles, high-end and affordable electric vehicles. We think that we've met that sufficiently in 2016, and according to our report, we suggest implementing IFRS and expanding more aggressively to continue fulfilling that mission for more and more customers, and expand Martin's vision and dream to be a auto manufacturer on the likes or on the scale to rival that of traditional vehicles, and ultimately usher in the change from our gas-guzzling, carbon-emitting vehicles to the future of ecological and environmentally friendly vehicles that respect our Mother Earth. Thank you. We'll now open the floor for questions. Merci.
Okay. First, I was just wondering, because I saw a lot of adjustment that you made after Peggy's first recording. So I'm a little bit confused because Peggy's in our company since maybe 10 years, and I saw that she made several millions of error. So what do you think? Should we keep Peggy? Because is it you that make all the mistakes, or is it Peggy?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. It's important to take a look at what the current makeup of the workforce is and see, is Peggy able to carry her position going forward? We think that that's definitely the case. Peggy has great experience with some of the more basic fundamental accounting requirements of the company. Being there for a long time, she'll be able to fill us in on how certain things are recorded and measured, and who to go to, what to ask when we need to gather information. And she will be fulfilling the role as secondary controller. She wasn't maybe very happy with being relegated to that position, but we think that it's in the best interest. The reason she made so many mistakes is not a flaw on her part, or it's more so just a lack of expertise in professional education. But it's good that now we have us CPAs joining the team. We'll be able to guide her to these new challenges, which she wasn't able to meet before because of her limited knowledge. So going forward, we think it's a great pairment of somebody who has the experience working in the company, along with us, who are the experts in the field.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. When I looked the financial statement, you said the ratio debt and equity is 2.06, but when I look the financial statement, it's 3. So I don't understand why we have a difference between my.
Yeah, regarding that, we'll take a look at our original. So this was the current situation. This is the debt that we used to calculate it. We didn't look at deposits included in that because we assumed that those were deposits from customers that we couldn't yet recognize, and that we weren't able to necessarily take into account as a proper debt on which we pay interest. So we just took the long-term interest along with the short-term portion of that long-term interest and used that to calculate our debt to equity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So about Mexico, your decision to move forward with this location, I was just curious to know how you kind of made that decision based on the fact that we had the option to build our building in Granby. So I was just curious.
We understand that building in Granby would be great. It's supporting nationalism, Canadian nationalism. However, labor costs are significantly lower in Mexico, and that would save us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and would help us further increase our research and development. So we took a long-term view on the direction of the company that we wanted the company to take, and we found that the decrease in labor costs would allow us to further create ecologically friendly, affordable cars for Canadians.
Okay, good. And I just have another quick question. Okay, so about e-green, I'm a little bit confused because I thought that we had to pay a certain amount to the government. And I was just curious why you decided to capitalize that amount into the asset. So I was just wondering
so
why.
regarding the e-green, we did mention in our issue that Peggy did not record a contingency liability for that, so we would record the current liability. However, we do have to expense the cost somehow, and the way we tackled the problem was that we do need we need to pay those fees to be able to produce the cars, and so the way we wanted to expense this was through cost of goods sold. So by doing that through inventory, that would go back to cost of goods sold in our income statement instead of through operating expenses.
Okay.
Okay. And also, we hit a pedestrian, and now he's dead, and now we will have an amount to pay between 5 and 10 million. Mm-hmm. You made a provision of $5 million. Why you didn't choose 10 million? Because we have the same probability of the 80%.
We understand. understand that, but the regulations under ASPE say that you can use the lower of the range. It's at your discretion. So we chose to use the lower.
Okay, and should we make an actualization of this amount because the trial will be for 5 years?
I think to follow up on that, I think by having the no disclosure, this would, and as the case goes to court, I think we'll have more information by talking with our lawyers and so on to maybe adjust the account balance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.